At 1 p.m. HST, I know where I will be. Ukulele Underground Podcast for you and me. Aldrin and Aaron and Kahai. And maybe Magic Mike or a guest on the fly. Ukulele Underground Podcast. Now here's the guys.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Ukulele Underground Podcast. My name is Aldrin Guerrero. Joining me are Mr. Aaron, the voice, Nakamura. Say what's up, Aaron.
What's up?
And Mr. Kahai, the legend, Fergan. Say what's up, Kahai.
What's up?
All right, so April's long gone, but it's kind of like an April Fool's joke. There's a lot of people are probably here for the Ukulele Underground Aloha Friday Live Jam. But bam, we're hitting you with the Ukulele Underground Podcast today. And that's because we have a very special guest today, Kahai. Do you know who we have today?
I don't know. I think I heard he was the inventor of strawberries. I think.
Yeah. He might be. He might be. He saw straws and he saw berries and put them together. It's like, oh, why not? Why not this?
Nobody else thought of it.
Nobody.
No.
But today we have a very, very, very special guest. Pretty much one of the best ukulele players in the world. I'm so excited. I'm a huge fan. We have Mr. James Hill. Hey.
Aloha. How you doing?
Hello, James. How are you, man? We haven't talked to each other in 6 years. We were just talking right before the show started. It's been 6 years.
That's
How
right.
are you?
Like in a word, good. Like that kind of covers like 6 years worth of material right there. Yeah, pretty good. And honestly, like everything that's happened in the last 6 years, never mind the last 2 years, the last 6 years, if you can come out on the other side of that saying, pretty good, I think I'm feeling good about the world and, where music and family. And I was just painting beehives. You might see some paint on my hands. Like during the pandemic, I just like delved into so many new things, and it's it's been mind altering and eye opening. And so that's me. I mean, how are you?
I'm good also. Yeah, I mean, like
great.
things have been good. I think the last time we spoke, we were just saying that your son was just about to be born. Like we had you on the podcast, and I remember you saying, guys, if I have to jet out of here, just unexplainably, like it's because my son's about to be born. Like, oh snap, you can go whenever you want, free pass to just leave the podcast. But today we have you, and you're not heading anywhere, right? You don't have any emergency situation that you got to go to.
Not that I know of. But that's the thing about emergencies. You don't always know that they're going to happen. So I'll let you know.
It's
you know what?
You'll
be the first one to know if there's an emergency.
Okay, good. Kahai, you got that?
Yeah.
Breaking news. Breaking
news.
Only.
That's right. Yeah.
Right on. So you have a very, very, very exciting project that's coming up very soon, actually, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's coming up soon and not. You know what it's like to release an album, right? I mean, you work away, you toil away on your own, in your own little world, and then you sort of say, okay, now I'm ready to share this gift with the world, and then poof, you kind of open the doors, and people are excited about it for like a week, and then it's like crickets. They move on to another thing. So this album, I wanted to do something different. It's more of a process, and it's definitely collaborative. I would say this album is part community and part concept album. So I think it's called Uke Heads, and it goes back to something that a friend of mine said years ago. Tony Coleman, you might know Tony because he was one half of the production team for the Mighty Uke movie. That came out years ago and really spotlighted the ukulele, the rise of the ukulele around the world. And I was having lunch with Tony in Toronto because we got to be good friends through the movie. And he was sitting across the table from me. We're having lunch, and I said, like, Tony, more than anyone in the world right now, because he'd just come off making this movie, you have your finger on the pulse of the ukulele community worldwide. And you know me, and you know what I've done, and you know what I like, and so I said, what should I do? What should I do next? I need some advice. Give me Give me the straight goods. And he didn't hesitate. And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, you know what you should do? You should write an album that other people can play on. Because he said what it would do, it would bring together everything that you're excited about. It would bring together, obviously, the ukulele, the songwriting, the educational aspect, the community building aspect, the technology aspect. It would bring together everything, live performance. It just has it all, and it puts it all under one umbrella. And I was like, man, you're totally right. And that was years ago. I don't even know. It might 6-8 years ago. Time flies, when you're raising a son and living through a pandemic. But I think it was like 6 or 8 years ago. And I've carried that idea with me every day. It just sort of nags at me. And finally, I'm getting to do this thing where I've written this album, and the songs are made to be played on and made to be sung on by lots of other people, not just me. And I'm throwing it open to strummers and singers who want to participate, and we're going to record one song a month. It's going to take about 10 months. Then we're going to mix it and master it. It's going to take another 2 months. It's going to be a year before this album drops. And by the time it drops, there's going to be a whole bunch of people who played on it who are going to be really excited about the music, who really know the music from the inside out and want to share it with people because they are on it, So that's the spirit of the project, and there's more to talk about, but those are the broad strokes.
Right on, man. And so with this project, how are you going to get all these people to lend their voices, lend their music to the project?
Well, I think this was the missing piece 8 years ago when I was talking with Tony. I didn't know how logistically we were going to do this. I mean, it's one thing to have a good idea. It's another thing to have a good idea and to know how to execute on that idea. Like I remember hearing somebody say, anybody who's ever had a hot shower has had $1 million business idea. Because you're like, oh, I'm a genius. I just came up with this great idea. Well, yeah, but it might take you the rest of your life to actually execute on that brainwave that you had, right? So I think it was a bit like that. And when I started to see the rise of NFTs and generative artwork, I was standing on the sidelines going, what are these things? And as I always ask about everything in my life, I always say, what does that have to do with music? That's my first thought about everything that I see. What does that have to do with music? What does that have to do with ukulele? And when I saw things like CryptoPunks, autoglyphs start to come out, I was like, I know in my bones that has something to do with music, and that has something to do with community building, and gradually started to figure out what the fit was. And I've been interested in visual art for all my life. I've always been a closet artist. I've always drawn and painted and done graphic design my whole life, just kind of secretly. I don't really share it with anybody. It's been my hobby, and so I started to create these Uke Heads, and it became a series, and it became a series of 1,879 of these unique Uke Heads. And ukulele players will understand the significance of 1879. 1879 is such a big year for us, the spiritual birth of the ukulele. So that number became the number around which this series of sort of portraits, really, of the ukulele, these whimsical, sometimes silly portraits of the ukulele. And I thought, well, those could act like tickets. And if you buy one of the art pieces, then it gives you access to this recording process, to this community that's going to be on the album. And so that was the final piece of the puzzle. Once I figured that out, it was like, okay, let's go. And that was the beginning of Uke Heads.
I mean, with the rise of NFTs, and I feel like artists, need another venue to kind of to put their music on, or to somehow get enough credit or get enough money for the music that they're making. I think this is definitely the way to go. Like one of the first instances that I heard of was Kings of Leon doing like an album like on NFT, and I think this this is where it should head. As far as like the future of artists making art and you know and other people consuming it in different ways, I think this is definitely the direction to go. You're a pioneer, just like with everything else that you've done, you know, before. And with as far as the art goes, I mean, like just take a look at all the album covers that you've done. It's just so tastefully made. I love that, you know, the Man Without the Heart, you know, when with your head going off and the body somewhere. Dude, I've been a huge fan for a long time, and these are like little things that I'm like, this is who did this? I'm sure James did this cover, right? Like, and it's always been a really cool, you know, cool process to watch or to just check out the things that you make and just try to understand what's going on in your head.
Right on. Well, thank you. I would love to take credit for that Man with a Love Song cover, but that was actually my friend Michael Rycraft. But I have done a lot of the artwork and design around my own stuff. And you know, at first for Uke Heads, I mean, first of all, I'd love to share a screenshot if I can. It's okay. We were looking at this beforehand, right? So here's an example of a Uke Head. This is one that I think personally. I think of Aldrine when I see this one. Uke Head number 174. I think it's the hat. Maybe it's the RoboCop eyes. I don't know. Maybe it's the bow tie, although I don't think I've ever seen you wear a bow tie. But
I should now.
Maybe you should. But you know, these are some of the Uke Heads. This is the style of that. You know, I'm going to go to the homepage because some of my favorites are on the homepage. And you know, each one of them is unique. There are no two that are the same. 1,879 of these. And it's been really interesting to get my team, my staff, you know, they've been in first choosing their Uke Heads, and like my son and my wife have chosen theirs. And actually, this is my son right here. He's got like the peacock feather and the laser beam eyes. He just really loved that one. And this is actually mine right here in the middle of the screen. I guess I put me and my son right beside each other.
Nice.
And you know, there's like endless possibilities and endless variations. And you know, you know how it is when people sometimes take their photo at a ukulele jam and they'll put their ukulele in front of their face. You know, and like I've done that for years and years and years, and I've always thought like, yeah, they do actually kind of look like heads. You know, let's go with that. And so this is the style, and there's all these different attributes, and it's really fun. And what people have said when they've talked about going in and finding theirs is not that they're looking for one that looks like them, because I think at first when I told people about the idea, they were like, oh, okay, well I'll find one with like a beard and glasses and long hair, you know. And I'm like, well, no, it's not really like that. It's more like the one that just sort of speaks to you, that maybe reflects your like inner person. You know, because these are not, they're not male, female, they're just kind of these entities, almost like minions or something, you know. And like when I look at mine here, this, I don't know how many people know that this is mine at the moment, but like to me, that there's something about that one that just kind of resonates with me. I can't explain exactly why. I think it's the, you know, it's the downturned mouth and the sort of see no evil. There's something about it. I can't explain why that one is me, but it just is. And that's, I think, part of the fun of it is finding the one that just resonates with you. It's like you might go to like an animal shelter to adopt an animal. You're not looking for the one that necessarily looks like you. You know, you're looking for the one that just reaches out to you and says, "Take me home." You know, I belong with you. You know, so it's a bit like that with Uke Heads as well. So even choosing is fun, and that's just the beginning. Never mind what you get for that, but just the process of picking out your Uke Head is just a fun experience.
And each one is unique, which is awesome.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
So,
Was that a reference to your ukulele X too? Like,
Oh,
true.
maybe
Hey.
subconsciously.
subconsciously, yeah.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Right. So with these Uke Heads and stuff, so how does that go into participating in the album, being involved with it?
That's a great question. For me, like I'm a pretty simple person when it comes down to it because of music. Like everything comes from music and everything goes back to music. So whenever I get confused about anything in my life, I always come back to music. And so when you ask me a hard question like that, my first thought is, what does that have to do with the music? Oh yeah, it all comes from the fact that the songs are written to be played on. You know, this doesn't work with just any songs. You know, like if my song is really beautiful, but it's like my song is like a oh yeah, okay, this is not the kind of song that like 1,800 people are going to jam on, right? It might be really beautiful, but you have to write this thing from the ground up to be played on. And I had a bunch of songs lying around that I had never finished and had never found a home. And they have this, most of them anyway, I think, 9 out of 10 of them have this like just epic quality to them and these epic sing-alongs. And I never found a home for these songs because I'd never been in the right place to, I think, okay, now that I'm thinking about it, I think singing these epic choruses on my own was kind of lonely. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, for some subconscious reason, I never put out these songs. I like them. I think they're good songs. But I didn't feel like, I think I felt somewhere deep down that like, I can't do this on my own. So those songs never made it onto an album. And so now I've sort of corralled all those ones and being like, yeah, these are the ones that I always needed help with. And that's a cool feeling.
That is awesome. Because like we listened to the album, or just like whatever whatever preview of the album so far. Yeah, love the songs. Like just right off the bat, that first track, the night and stuff, it just feels so epic. Like with the electric baritone coming in, it's like this is gonna be awesome. Like you just get that feeling as soon as like you hear just the first few seconds of the album, or that track even is just like this. And I can see like 1,800 people like contributing to that one song. It's like this is going to be amazing. I'm so stoked for this project, man.
Cool. And there's still a lot to be learned. I mean, I'm not sitting back saying, I have all the answers for this. We're gonna. I'm sort of offering it almost to the community and saying this is as far as I could take it on my own. Now you're gonna come in and you're gonna shape it again. It's like this album is going to be twice baked. It's like I had a crack at it. Now when you all come in and start playing on it, I know, and you don't have to be a seasoned musician to know this, but like the minute 1,800 people arrive at your party, it's going to change the party. So I don't know how that's going to play out, and I don't want to know how that plays out. I want to learn that in the moment with everybody. I don't want to show up and have everything figured out. That's not as much fun as it could be. So I'm stoked to have people contribute and hear the songs respond to those contributions. I think it's going to be really fun. That being said, it's not like for anybody listening out there who's going, sweet, I'm just gonna like make up my own part, or I'm just gonna play a ripping solo all the way through. It's like, hold on. It's not quite that open. There will be sections where I've told the Uke Heads, the people who have been interested and who've been listening to my weekly Q&As about this, I've told them, look, you have to think of yourself more like part of the horn section, in the band, where it's like the horns, the saxophones, the trumpets, like they're not playing all the time. There are times when they just get to sit back, they like twirl their horns and do a little cool dance, and they know that they don't play on every measure, and they're cool with that. Now that's different for ukulele players. We're not used to that. When we go to a kanikapila, we expect to play from the first beat to the last beat, and maybe even more. Right? So I think for ukulele players, there's going to be a bit of a learning curve in terms of like, this is the part where you don't play, and I think that's good for everybody. You have to think of yourself as being part of a band, a really big band, but it's still part of a band, and you have to make room for everybody. So
Yeah, make room for people, guy. Jeez, don't just don't fight over people, man.
Have you ever like there's a thing where you bring canned soup and you all dump it into one pot, right? But like this
Stone
time,
soup.
yeah. But it's like it's a swimming pool size pot, right?
exactly.
That people are dumping it. So.
Yeah, just like, where's the diving board? Like, cannonball.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people can't be like, well, I got this pizza. I'm gonna throw this pizza in.
That's right.
Like,
Yeah.
No, you gotta bring the soup. Bring the soup.
That's right. And dump it in when I say go. Like
Yeah.
there's a bit of like, there's a bit of organization that has to go on. Like, for example, like just this week, we set up our own Slack workspace for the Uke Heads project. We're not going to try to like chase people around with emails and whatnot. Like, we're going to have our own dedicated workspace where we can all hang out, get to know each other, and get work done. It's going to have to be this, like, it's kind of like going on a like on a space shuttle ride with like 1,800 people. Like, we're going to be in this together for 10 or 12 months, and we need a dedicated space for that. The other thing is, when I say 10 or 12 months, that's cool, and that's going to be fun, and that's the album. But one of the reasons why I decided to go with NFTs for this instead of just like a ticket. I guess I could have just sold tickets, right? And that would have been it. But I really see this as more of a long-term project, something that goes beyond this album. And NFTs give you the ability to have a thing that has a life beyond the project. So there might be future singles, for example, where we can get the band back together. There might be discounts that they get on workshops or conferences or special stuff at concerts, backstage access, or and all of that is enabled through that NFT that they first held for the Uke Heads album, but then it continues to provide value and utility, beyond that. That's quite different than just having a ticket. And of course, the other thing is, once you have it as an NFT, you can then sell it if you want. Maybe you're done with Uke Heads, you've moved on to the ocarina now, and it's like, I'm just going to sell my spot in this global ukulele ensemble, or I think more likely, I'm going to gift it to somebody, or I'm going to give it to my son or my daughter, or it has a life beyond Uke Heads the album, and potentially beyond even the people who are in this project. And to me, that long-term aspect, which is enabled by NFTs, makes it worth the trouble of learning a whole bunch of new things and making this happen in a way that's never been done before.
That's amazing. It is definitely the first of its kind, and we're so stoked. That's all. I'm like at a loss for words. This is such a great idea. It's like, this, I want to be a part of this already.
I love it, and I like the fact that pretty much encapsulates what NFTs are about now.
Oh yeah.
So for a lot of people who are unfamiliar with the NFT space and don't really get it, like that. Yeah. That's like,
that's it. That's a great explanation.
That's a great explanation of like what is possible and how community should form around NFTs. I mean, really good projects.
Yeah. So speaking of which, for those people who have no idea, like, but then wants to support the project or wants to be a part of the project and stuff, how do I even like phrase this and stuff? How can they get involved? How can they get into NFTs? Like, can they buy it from whatever? Or do they need a special thing? Like what's the entry like?
That's a really great question. I'm so glad you asked that, because I sometimes come in so hot I forget that first step. My partner in this project is my lifelong friend Chris Parsons, who we grew up playing ukulele together in the Langley Ensemble under Peter Luongo, and he and I sat together on, like, I can't even count how many Hawaii tours. We played in the Sheraton Waikiki every night, together in the summer for 2 weeks, and like we've been all over the world together playing ukulele. And he is one of the only friends that I have who I can talk to about NFTs, because he kind of took an interest in it early as well. And it just so happens, it just a kind of a freaky coincidence that he and I had written one of these songs on the album together years ago. And so he's like, he's my partner in this, and also my sort of co-writer on one of the tracks, which is so cool. But we had to make a decision pretty early on, like how much do we want to assume about people's familiarity with this landscape of NFTs and crypto, and how off-putting is it to people, especially in our demographic, the ukulele demographic, the people who come to our ukulele shows, the people who go to ukulele festivals, the people who come to ukulele workshops and sign up for online ukulele courses. You know, they're of a certain age. I don't know how to say this, you know, and they've always supported what I've been doing, you know, since, you know, it's 20 years ago now that I put out my first album. It's crazy. And what is my level of confidence that these folks are going to feel comfortable with crypto? My level of confidence is almost zero, you know. And that's fine, you know. And we had to find a way to onboard people without scaring them off or exposing them to you know, scams and stuff like that as they're trying to get crypto. So what we've decided on, I think, is a really nice compromise, and I've heard of other people now doing something similar, where it's I think the word for it is non-custodial NFT collection, which means we hold it for you. You don't actually need to hold the NFT. You buy something. You actually just buy the image in a very old-fashioned way, just like you would go online and buy a T-shirt or something. Buy a Ukulele Underground T-shirt. It's no different that you punch in your Visa card and you get a receipt and it's done. Like, there's no hoops to jump through. You don't have to get a crypto wallet. You don't have to fill it with crypto. You don't have to do KYC. You don't have to send your passport photo to somebody. You don't have to take a selfie of yourself and wait 7 days. You know, all of that stuff that anybody who's ever tried to get crypto before, especially in certain countries, you know, we eliminated all of that completely. And we've just made it an option that if you already have a crypto wallet, we will airdrop you your NFT once you've bought in and once you've paid for your image, basically. And for the rest of you, we're just going to hold them, and they've got your name on them. And if in 2 years' time you decide to get a crypto wallet, all you have to do is say, "Hey, give me my NFT," and boom, it appears in your wallet. And so this is a really nice intermediate step that means that we don't have to wait for the community to have 100% adoption with, you know, Web3 in order to start to experiment with and leverage the amazing possibilities of Web3. We don't want to sit here and be, you know, stuck at the starting line just because not everybody, you know, my parents don't have crypto wallets. I don't want that to hold us back, because there's so many great possibilities creatively and in terms of community that we can tap into right now. If we just put that aside and say, look, we'll hold the NFT until you're ready, and let's just get on with the good stuff.
That is amazing. Yeah, that's definitely great news for a lot of, I'm sure a bunch of you folks who are watching the podcast right now, like, this is great, but, you know, like, why NFTs, and I don't have any, or I don't have a wallet or whatever. What is blockchain? And all these questions that people usually get when people talk about NFTs. You just eliminated all of that. It's just like, just buy it. Just buy the thing, put in your credit card, and you have it, and you own it, and you're part of the project. Pretty simple as that. So if anyone else has any other questions, that's it. just go. It's kind of like just buying a regular CD. You know, just go buy it. That's it.
and I think the main thing is, like, let's get on with it. You know, like I think we'll know that all this Web3 stuff has gained sort of mass adoption when we just stop talking about it. You know, like, I'm interested in it, so I'm listening to podcasts about, you know, NFTs and stuff. And even I get tired of hearing about it. You know, it's like this blockchain and that blockchain and this NFT and that NFT. But it's like, the minute we stop talking about the nuts and bolts and the how it works, like, how many people actually know the processing power of their CPU now? Like, I don't know. I just know I got a new laptop and it works great. Like, that's all I know. But in 1997, I knew, like, it was a Pentium, or it was a 486, or it was a, those things were really important then, because we hadn't gotten over the hump of, what's going on under the hood. Once we stop caring about that, then we can move on and actually just have fun. And I think I'm just trying to get there a little sooner.
Yeah.
It's like people are like, oh, check out this cool hammer that I have. And they're like, oh, well, there's a house behind you. And it's like, yeah, I built a house, but check out this hammer. This hammer is really cool, right?
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. And you'd have like podcasts devoted to hammers.
To that specific hammer.
Yeah. And debating
Why
like
this
which
hammer
hammer
is
is
better
better.
than this hammer.
Exactly. Like how absurd is that? And yet that's the stage that we're at with NFTs and crypto. And it can't come soon enough for me that we get past that stage. And I just didn't want to get bogged down with that stuff.
Yeah. Nice.
But I mean, there's like so much possibilities with NFT, and I'm glad you're doing this project, because it can just kind of show people what are some possibilities that you can do with when you go down this route. And I'm excited to see what happens like 10 years from now, 20 years from now.
Yeah.
It's super exciting.
And especially for ukulele players,
Yeah.
because like the ukulele community is itself a pretty small community. So a lot of the artists are like independent artists.
Yes.
And we don't have necessarily have the funding to produce your own albums. And this opens up a whole new realm of possibility for independent artists to fund their own projects,
That's right.
do really cool things, and build community. So
Yeah. And on that note, I don't want to turn this into a belly aching session about streaming and payouts and royalties and everything. But I also don't want to gloss over the fact that, Spotify and streaming has led us down a road that's like, there's no more blood left in that stone, unless you are Drake or Taylor Swift or Ed Sheeran. Like, don't get me wrong, those guys are doing fine. And in fact, they're making a killing. They're loving this. But that is, you talk about the 1%. That's like the 0.01% of musicians.
Yeah.
And it's a very top-heavy model. And as I heard it described the other day, streaming for artists is really a superstar or bust model. Like if somebody loves my music, I'm a small independent artist. If anybody loves my music and they listen to my music on repeat all month long, and that I'm the only artist they listen to, they would expect that, most of the money they pay to the Spotify is going to come to me, right? I mean, that's logical. You would think that's the way it works. And those of us who are in the business know that that's not at all the way it works. I would see probably none of that $9 that my super fan has spent. It would all go to Taylor Swift. And I think Taylor Swift is awesome, but it's not her fault that the payout model is skewed the way it is. But that's the reality. And so I think you hear a lot of people talking about 1,000 true fans. We've heard that for independent artists out there. If you have 1,000 true fans who really show up for you and who really support you with all that you do, and they spend $100 on you every year. It's pretty easy to do the math and say, well, you can make a living at that, if you have 1,000 true fans. But I think what NFTs and blockchain projects are showing us, that it might even just be 100 fans if the money is actually going to the artist. It doesn't even need to be 1,000. It can be a very small community that can rally around an artist who they really love. And maybe that artist, heaven forbid, doesn't feel like becoming a superstar. Maybe that's not their ambition. They want to make music. They make music for a niche audience, and that's what they love. And their very small niche audience loves them back. Now we're starting to see models emerge where that is sustainable. Whereas through the streaming era, that was simply not sustainable. And all artists could do was to make money on tour. Of course, the pandemic shut that down. And where does that leave us, right? So I see a complex future for independent artists, but a much brighter future than I would have, been looking at 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we just need to keep the artists making art. Like that's what I want to see.
That's right.
And they getting what they deserve. The money that they deserve.
Yeah.
From
Or at least be able to live doing the art.
keep making the art. Yeah, keep making the art.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree completely.
All right, so go. Like you said, what does it have to do about music? Let's dive into the music of the album.
Okay.
So you showed us your baritone earlier, and then we heard about this cross tuning that we were talking about right before the show got started. Please tell us about the ukulele process, what kind of ukes you use,
Sure.
tunings, and all that good stuff.
Okay, let's get geeky. Well, I mean, I have been playing a lot of baritone ukulele. People who've been following me know I've been playing a lot of baritone since my last album, which was the old Silo. And on that album, I started to really lean into this tuning that I had stumbled across, which I don't know if I don't have perfect pitch, but this sounds good to me. So this tuning is, instead of D, G, B, E, which would be your standard baritone tuning, this is B, E, B, E. So the two strings closest to the floor are just normal. But then the two strings closest to your face are almost like a mirror image, in a sense, of those two notes. And I mean, it means that you have 4 strings, but only 2 notes. And I will say, for those of you who are following along at home, because I'm sure you're all sitting there retuning your baritones as fast as you can. No, the string closest to your face, that 4th string, is reentrant. I've always played baritone as a reentrant tuning, the Lyle Ritz tuning. I know Benny Chong plays this way. Byron might play this way too. I think, at least some of the time. And the reentrant baritone is a beautiful thing. And because I'd always played that way, it just flowed into this tuning. So the 2 B's are in unison. They are exactly the same note. And the 2 E's are an octave apart. So just if you're sitting there at home going like, why doesn't mine sound like that? That might be why. It's that 4th string is reentrant. So this, I don't know, I've tried a ton of different tunings, but this one just kept coming back to haunt me. And I think maybe it's because it can be really like gentle, you know. It can have this almost like harp-like Gaelic, Irish kind of overtones of maybe like an octave mandolin or what am I thinking of? Like a bouzouki or something like that. It has that kind of a vibe to it. And like, I can just sit around all day and entertain myself with this tuning. And what's super cool about this tuning is that even now, I don't really know what I'm doing. And that is the beauty of altered tunings. You know, it gets you out of that headspace where you think you know, because like, you don't know. Like, let's just get this out in the open.
Right.
You don't know what you think you know. Like, I'm sorry if I'm the first person to say that to you, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry to be that person, but you know what? You never get there. You know, there is no getting there. There is no fully understanding the fretboard. It's way beyond our capacity to totally master it. It's like, you know, I'm not a science, expert or anything, but it's like the closer you look, there's always more stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, there's molecules, and just kidding, there's also atoms. Hey, we looked a little closer, and there's protons and neutrons and electrons. Oh, but actually inside those, there's some other stuff. It's like, it's that way with the fretboard. Like, I'm sorry, but you'll never get to the bottom of it. But the problem is, I think we especially as professionals, we get to a point where we think we know. that's the worst.
This is a perfect podcast to say that, Jay. we have always told everyone that, like, we don't know anything.
Good. Well, then you're way ahead of the curve, you know.
I see
That's the
what
whole
you're
premise of this podcast.
Right.
I see what you're doing though, James, right? You're blowing everybody's minds. So like their heads are exploding. And then, I gotta get a Uke Head to replace my head, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And
just
when you're spiraling out of control, I come in with my briefcase. Would you like to buy a Uke Head? Yeah.
Next thing I know, I have like robot eyes and a hat.
That's right. Yeah.
Perfect replacement.
And if you buy this Uke Head, you get the BEBE tuning too.
That's right. Yeah. Oh shoot! I just gave it away in the name. Ah, darn! I should have called it something more obscure.
Yeah.
But what's beautiful about altered tunings, and not just this one, but any altered tuning, is it bursts your bubble, right? It makes you humble again. It makes you realize you have no idea what's about to happen when you put your fingers down. And for me, it was so refreshing after 30 years of playing ukulele to have something that could bring that freshness and that surprise back, where I'm like, oh, what happens if I do this? That's cool. What happens if I keep going? Ooh, I get this like minor six. What happens if I keep going? I don't really like that one. Maybe I'm not going to do it again. And then it comes back to something more consonant. You know, I'm flailing around in the dark again, and I love it. So that's why I love this tuning.
It's definitely unique. It sounds awesome and lots of surprises.
That almost sounds like the story of your entire musical career, where you
Flailing around in the dark.
no as far as
what if I do
artists,
this?
ukulele artists goes,
Yeah.
you seem to be one of those artists that push beyond your boundary just to see what's there, and then you bring it back into something that like anybody can consume, and then you push further, and then you know.
I mean, I was there for the ukulele festival in Hawaii, where you started shoving the chopsticks down your strings. I'm like, that's sacrilegious to do that here in Hawaii. What's going on? And then what came out of it, we're like that. Okay, all right, you can do whatever you want to your ukulele at this point, you know.
That was a moment in time. I'm glad I didn't think about that too much, but I do remember that day and doing that on stage and thinking, if this doesn't land, I'm never gonna play in this town again. You know? and when you do that stuff, like that Ukulele X type stuff, and you get freaky with the chopsticks and like, really part of what you're doing is you're playing the pickup, which means part of what you're doing is you're playing the PA, right? And I didn't have my own sound guy there. I mean, I was at the mercy of whoever was on sound, and I still don't know to this day who it was, but whoever it was, thank you. You know, it worked out, and they probably gave me a little low end boost, and it just rocked. It was amazing. So, you know, I'm a little lucky that landed where it did, because it would have been pretty uncouth, I think, to show up in Hawaii and bring that. But I will say, and I've said this before, and even to you guys when we be talking about this, I will say that ironically, or it seems ironic until you really go to Hawaii and you experience the culture, people might think that the last place that you would want to experiment with the ukulele would be in front of a Hawaiian audience. And in fact, what I've found is that the Hawaiian audience is the most receptive to experimentation, because to Hawaiian audiences, and I don't like to generalize, but this is my experience, the ukulele is a living tradition. It is a living, growing, evolving tradition that is still quite young, and people in Hawaii seem to know that in their bones. You know, when you go other places, and you know, other places in the world who think they are preserving the tradition and who want to freeze the tradition in time and make sure they're doing it right, those are the places where you get pushback. Those are the places where people get offended because they think they know what is right. Whereas in Hawaii, because it is this living tradition of ukulele, I've just always found that people are like ready for the next thing because it's alive and it's growing.
Yeah. Yes, very well said. Yeah. As three dudes from Hawaii, that's you got it.
Probably it's like you shove a chopstick in your uke, and then afterwards somebody in Hawaii is like, "Oh, can I borrow your chopstick to my pokeball?"
You're done with that pokeball, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas, somebody, in another part of the world is just like, you can't do that. Like, you cannot do that.
At least use a fork or something.
That's right. Yeah. So no, that's been cool. I've learned so much, not just about ukulele, but just about culture and life and love and aloha. Like every time I go to Hawaii, especially the times that I've spent with young people in Hawaii. I used to go to camps and teach, at Keoki Kaumoku's camp on the Big Island. Experiences like that where you get to spend time, not just one workshop hour, but you get to spend a week or sometimes longer, and really relax into the spirit of aloha. That's where I've really taken away a lot of lessons, and I can't imagine my ukulele life without those experiences.
All right, so let's dive into the to the album and the music and the ukulele. Like when I first heard that first track, bam, electric ukulele. Like that's the first thing that hit my ears. I'm like, that's awesome. Tell us about the process of baritone tuning with the BE distorted overdrive.
Yeah. A lot of the time on the album it is overdriven, and I'm not always playing in BE, but I'll show you why BE tuning. Let's call it Bebe tuning because it's easier to say than BE. But if I hook up my distortion, I just got to turn on the amp, and it's going to take a minute to warm up. But you know how I said that the B string and the B string are identical? They're not an octave apart. They are in unison. That's the key, I think, to why this Bebe tuning sounds like even tighter and sort of grittier sometimes than a guitar, because on a guitar you don't have that unison. It's sort of like it packs such a punch into a smaller sonic space. So let me show you what I mean. So see, here I'm grabbing some note. I don't even know what it is. And then I'm going to grab that same note on the other B string. Fine. But now I'm going to bend one of them. Right?
Right? Aldrin is all over this right now.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now,
growl.
It sounds like, church bells or something. It's not necessarily nice just to sit on that on its own, but as you're moving through things, you get this like wild vibrato. It's not just one note vibrating; it's one note competing with itself on a different string.
So I saw a video of you playing Voodoo Child. Are you playing with the same tuning? With that?
No, I'm actually that's another nutty tuning where I played traditional DGBE on that one, except now this is going the opposite. This is like I'm contradicting myself now, but for that one I played low D, right? So DGBE, and then I tuned the D down another octave. It's crazy.
You're a mad scientist, sir.
So this, you can actually see it in that video. I think somebody pointed it out to me. At one point, you can see the D string just going like thwap, 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 thwap. Like it's vibrating so slowly because I don't even think I changed the string to something thicker. I just like down a whole octave, and it just goes
It
like
just like match the frame rate of the camera.
Exactly.
So it's like, yeah.
it just goes like fwappa, 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 and and it's this like subsonic D down there, and that's how I was able to get some of that sort of Hendrix vibe. Otherwise, it'd be hard to do that, especially solo ukulele, right?
Yeah, because that growl, that's what it reminds me of. Is that kind of Hendrixy growl to it. That's so cool.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. No, it's super fun, and I think sometimes, although like maybe I'm just out of touch and I don't check the internet forums because I learned 20 years ago never to check what people are saying about you. But people generally either not a lot of people have seemed to be super offended by it. I think in the earlier days of the ukulele third wave, it would have been more scandalous. People like, well, that's not ukulele. I just think
clutching their pearls.
that's right.
That's
right.
Where's my little grass shack? Like, what are you doing?
Oh, that's so
That's
little.
right. And I just don't hear as much of that anymore. And maybe that's just because there's so many more people doing so many more things with ukulele. And phew, I'm okay with that. Great.
Yeah. So this is all awesome, but there's another thing I want to talk about.
Okay.
Tell us about Uketropolis.com.
Oh yeah.
What is Uketropolis.com?
Right, that whole thing. Well, Uketropolis.com is where I teach. It's that simple. Like if you want to take lessons with me, that's where I'm teaching. And I don't give one-on-one lessons. I know that's something you guys do, right? You do one-on-one coachings, which is it's just super cool. I don't do that, but I have recorded a whole series of what I would say are unique ukulele courses, like really well structured, carefully structured at least courses on, like, for example, ukulele jazz, ukulele X, which is the extreme one that we've talked about a little bit, but also really super beginner stuff. I mean, I've got a course there that's a $1 course. It's called Ready Steady Ukulele. Actually, we've just started translating this course we've just released the Spanish version in book form.
Oh, cool.
It's $1, and I released this at the beginning of the pandemic because we had a whole bunch of people come and join the site, and I realized that I wanted to be able to assume that people knew a certain little set of things. And when they were coming off YouTube or they're coming off the Ukulele Jam or whatever, and they're coming into a course like the Ukulele Way, which is a course that's been around that I did in 2015 or so, which is all about solo ukulele, how to play the melody, the harmony, the rhythm all simultaneously. They jump into a course like that, but they didn't know what tab was, or they didn't know the basics of chord positions or posture, or even how to buy an ukulele, So there were these there was this almost like pre-flight checklist of things that I wanted to make sure that every beginner who was coming into Uketropolis understood, and I could rely on that. So that $1 course is Ready Steady Ukulele, and anybody can jump in and get started with that. And then probably the most popular course on the site is called Booster Uke, and Booster Uke is all about the amazing phenomenon of chord twins. It's like G6 and D7, you know what I'm talking about? Two chords that have the same hand position, but where you get a tonic and a dominant. It's really a 2-for-1. And we all know, like, E minor and B7, these are like classic chord twins. And I found all the chord twins that I could on the fretboard and just made a method out of those. And so it's super accessible. It leads you into way more advanced sounding repertoire, blues and jazz stuff that beginners would never think that they could access, in the first 10 lessons, but you can because of this incredible fretboard phenomenon of chord twins.
Cool.
So those are some of the courses, but the point is, I got to a stage where I was I had all these websites, like I had the Ukulele Way over here, and then I had the Jehui program, which is my teacher certification program here, and then I had my Ukulele in the Classroom, which is my curriculum for schools. And it's like I'm maintaining all these communities and all these sites, they're all going out of date, and I have to sort of prop them up and fix bugs and stuff, and like this is crazy. I'm just spread way too thin. And so what Uketropolis is pulling all of those threads together, where I say everything that I do with education on the ukulele, whether it's for individuals or teachers or classrooms, whatever it is, it all lives in one place, and that's Uketropolis.
That is awesome. So one-stop shop for everything James Hill.
That's right. Yeah. And it's been a real fun
cool.
journey. It's a great community, really supportive, and I'm there all the time, just helping people and get better.
So you mentioned earlier like the significance of 1879. I follow you on Twitter. Saw some really cool like apparel like that you came out with on that site 1879. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah.
For the people that don't know.
1879 is I don't know. I've always wanted to have some like cool apparel for ukulele players, and it's not that there's not cool apparel. I mean, the Ukulele Underground T-shirt is a classic, right? You guys nailed it. White on black. In those early days when you guys were just starting, and that T-shirt started to appear everywhere, right? And I was like, that's cool, and that's the kind of thing I'd love to see more of. But oftentimes with ukulele apparel, we wear things that we want other people to see what we do. We're signaling to other people. As Seth Godin says, he says, people like us do things like this, which is a really succinct way of saying, I like ukulele, you like ukulele. I'm going to show you that I like it because of what I'm wearing. But oftentimes the options were like, you'd go on and you'd type in like ukulele T-shirt, and aside from the Ukulele Underground shirt, you'd get things that were like, kiss me, I'm an ukulele player, or it'd be like, pull my finger and I'll play you a C chord. It's like, that's not really what I have in mind for like, So anyway, this is something that's not even out yet, but I started to get into the idea of like 1879 as, I don't know if you can see that well. This is the Phantom hat, so it's like
classy,
red on red.
That is sick.
And we're doing a black on black one as well. But the idea for 1879 is, let me just get one other here thing. Hold on, one sec. This is one of my favorites. This is from the new collection. This one is like the like the AC/DC almost like rock and roll shirt.
Yeah.
It's just like this cool red outline. So like we all know here that 1879 was the year that the Ravenscraig arrived from Madeira to Hawaii. August 23rd, 1879. And although it wasn't called the ukulele then, that was the first exposure of that sound to Hawaiian ears. And within a decade, the ukulele was the national instrument of Hawaii. So that moment of first contact is really the spiritual birth, I think, of the ukulele, and celebrating that moment in time. Now you have to, that became the brand, right? So 1879 is the brand, and I've run with that. We've got hoodies, we've got shirts. We've got shirts that are a little more explanatory that say ukulele established 1879. We got the hats and stuff, and it's been really fun, and people are wearing them with pride, and it's cool. They're conversation starters because they're not too like on the nose about it.
Yeah.
So I really like how it's coming together, but also I think sort of the sort of elephant in the room is, I'm Canadian, I'm a white guy. It's delicate for me, I don't feel good about making a shirt that says like from Hawaii with Aloha. It's like, it's
Thank you.
It's not. It's not.
We're from Hawaii and we're not comfortable
We're kind of
doing
nervous
that
about
either.
it. You know?
Well, like I don't think people here wouldn't want to wear stuff like that. Or like the shirts. If you look up ukulele shirts online, right, you get like hibiscus or coconut
Palm trees,
and
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
local people don't really wear clothes like that.
Right. That's so interesting. Yeah. And that's how I just felt in my gut just uncomfortable, you know. And it wasn't until I started honing in on the moment in time, because I felt like, well, nobody owns that moment, you know. That was a cross-cultural moment, and it doesn't belong to anyone in particular. That's something that I can celebrate and that I can help celebrate in my own way, that I don't feel is just appropriation. And it wasn't until I stumbled on that as a brand idea that I felt like, let's go, you know, let's do this, because I feel good about this. But, you know, until that time, I just stayed out of the apparel thing altogether.
So where can you get some 1879 apparel?
1879.co.
Hey, yeah.
Nice.
Kahai put it in the chat, so
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
on.
check it out.
I know it's it's at the top of the hour, but do you have a little bit more time to answer some questions from the audience?
Yeah, sure.
Or-
Absolutely.
I was gonna ask if we can get maybe like a little taste of the Uke Heads.
Oh yeah. Let's do that.
All right.
Let's do
If
that.
that's possible.
Like me playing it, or you guys playing the. Do you have a track that you can play?
No, I mean if you're willing to perform for the audience, that would be great.
I'm gonna go back to standard tuning. Now this is really asking for it. To go from one tuning to the other.
Staying in tune.
Yeah. So not every song on the album is an epic rock and roll sing-along. This is, I'll do my best on this one. This is called Solid Gold. And it means whatever you think it means. And so our love isn't made of solid gold, and there ain't a word that opens every door to the soul. Shame on me for believing everything that I've been told. Oh, that I've been told. Now it's cold as the night is long, and that old wind whistles lonesome cowboy songs. If I knew how to go, best believe I would be gone. I would be gone. But if it ain't solid gold, 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 then it might just be something we ain't afraid, whatever the chords, to hold. I'll do one more verse just for fun. That grain of sand under the mattress has grown, and pretty soon our pebble he's gonna be a stone. Is there still time before he gets too heavy to roll? Heavy to roll. If it ain't solid gold, 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 then it might just be, it might just be, it might just be something we ain't afraid to hold. Something along those lines, anyway. So I wanted to do that one because there's that little part in there about my son. That grain of sand under the mattress has grown, and pretty soon that pebble, he's going to be a stone.
Beautiful.
So I just thought full circle with you guys, having the last time we talked being, just before he was born.
Yeah, and I mean, it means so much because like when we first started talking way back in like 2000, I want to say 3 or 4 or whatever, and then now it's come to this, and now it means so much, man. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being and talking about your projects and pushing the ukulele to all the boundaries. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, guys. It's been been a pleasure to watch what you've been doing too. I mean, it's just like inspiring to see you, create and cultivate this community, because it's one thing to start something, it's another thing to keep it going, and you guys are like the shining example of how to do both, so way to go.
Well, if there's anyone willing to listen, we're here to talk. We're here to teach. We're here to to see the growth of the next generation. I mean, our main goal is to grow the next generation, and now like the next generation is here, and we're excited for that. So it's come a full circle, and we're seeing those people that kind of grew in the years when we started, and they're starting to teach, and they're starting to make music, and it's so great to see like where this tiny little instrument is taking everyone and the impact that it's done. Yeah.
It's not bad for a couple of guys who just bumbled through not really knowing how to do anything.
Full disclosure of not really knowing what we're doing.
Yeah,
I love
like
it.
James said, the further you get to the edge of playing, the more that you realize that you don't.
That's right.
How did we
Nobody
do all
really
of that
knows what
stuff?
they're doing out here.
That's
All
right.
right. So let's sum it all up. Where can they find Uke Heads?
That one is ukeheads.com. That domain was not taken, so I grabbed it. So check out ukeheads.com, and I'm on Twitter with that project and also Facebook with that project. At the handle is Ukeheads Music, and we are launching the full series on June 1st. So get in on June 1st at noon Pacific time. Everything will be available for purchase. But starting right now, actually, you can go in and start browsing that whole catalog that I showed earlier. And you can even favorite your favorites and save them in a wish list. So because, you know what it's like going through a gallery of like 1,800 pieces. It's nice to have a little shopping list at the end where he's like, these are the 10 that I loved. So although you can't buy any right now, you can get in there and browse and get a feel for it. And then on June 1st, it all hits the fan, and we're going to see where this goes.
Nice.
Right on, man. Hey, good luck with everything, and thank you for being here. Also, Uketropolis.com. Check that out, and 1879 Apparel. Thank you so much, James. Hey.
Thank you, guys. Way to go. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
That does it for Ukulele on the Ground podcast. We'll see you folks next time for Aloha Friday Live Jam. Aloha.